There are certain requirements that must be met if a campus goes into school improvement. And when we get to that point, and we know who those campuses are, and campuses start having to notify parents, one of the requirements of the campuses is to send the letter that you use to notify your parents of school improvement status. You have to send that into our office. And the additional money that's available to campuses that go into school improvement does not get released to that campus until Anita says your letter is good enough. And let me tell you something about Anita. She is a parent advocate like no one you've ever met. If that statute under No Child Left Behind says there must be 8 requirements that parents must be told, she's not going to release your money until you've told them all 8 requirements. How many of you received a letter from the agency that was dated April 4th that told you it was a possibility that your campus might be going into school improvement program come August if you didn't meet AYP? Five hands, 6. We mailed out over 300 letters to campuses who had the possibility of entering the school improvement program if they remained a Title I campus and they missed AYP for the same criteria for the second consecutive year when the ratings for AYP come out in August. I'm really disappointed only 7 of you have seen that letter. Because it wasn't just a letter, it was 3 months' work, and it was a packet of everything you need to know to be prepared for this. When we look at school improvement, a lot of people want to know why we're looking at AYP so detailed. Those of you who were here last night heard the gospel according to Paul Ruiz. He talked about things like you really can't argue with the intent and purpose of No Child Left Behind. A lot of people don't like the NCLB statute, they don't like AYP. I'm constantly asked, why did AYP begin when the No Child Left Behind was passed? Adequate yearly progress, or AYP, did not begin in 2002 with NCLB. Federal education statute under the Improving America Schools Act since 1996 had AYP. It just wasn't as specific. They allowed the states to define AYP and to define accountability for federal programs. The previous 6 years of federal program administration, AYP in the state of Texas was aligned to the state accountability rating. We had a specific waiver from the U.S. Department of Education that allowed us to do so. School improvement was determined on 1 year of bad performance, not 2 consecutive years in the same criteria. So we had AYP before, it's just it looked very different. So no one can argue with what NCLB stands for. And no one can argue why all students shouldn't be counted. So you heard the gospel according to Paul last night. Today you're going to hear the cause according to Cory. And it gets better because before you get to go to lunch, you're going to hear the consequences according to Anita. The first thing you need to understand is that state and federal accountability are not the same. And does anyone think they are? Everyone should know there is a major difference between the state and federal accountability requirements. It's 2 different systems that have 2 different sets of requirements. Now, which one is more important than the other? They're both important. I can't tell you how many meetings I sat in the first 2 years of No Child Left Behind, and these were meetings with the campus and district administrators, and they would sit in a meeting and say, all we care about is state accountability. We don't care about this federal AYP. I don't care if we never make it. Well, I hate to break it to those people, but when you don't make it and you go into school improvement, somebody has to start caring. I feel sorry for a principal who gets thrown into the school improvement program and is not prepared for what's coming. It can be a very rewarding experience of improving your school and helping students and helping teachers, or it can be a nightmare. And it's all depending on the frame of mind that a campus chooses to go into the school improvement process with. Now, state and federal accountability are different, and in your handout, behind the slides, you have a handout that says Appendix C. Now, this handout on Appendix C is straight out of this 2006 accountability manual. And it's a chart that shows you the differences between state and federal accountability. And as you look through that chart, you'll start to understand why, yes, a campus can be recognized in the state accountability system and miss AYP in the federal system. It can happen, and unfortunately it does happen. There are a few campuses every year who can be recognized and miss AYP. There are a lot of campuses who will meet the state academically acceptable rating and miss AYP. So as you look through this chart, the first thing you're going to notice is the subjects that are included in the accountability systems are different. The state system includes writing, social studies, and science, where the federal system is only reading, language arts, and math. The standard for the passing percentage is different. If you look simply at reading, language arts, acceptable in the state system is 60%, while meeting AYP is 53%. But if you look down at math, acceptable is 40% in state, but it's 42% to meet AYP. So the subjects are different and the standards are different. A lot of people ask, why are the standards different? Why couldn't you at least align the standards to be the same? Federal statute describes how you determine starting points and how you determine the interim steps for improvement in the federal system. So they are slightly different. You look at the grades that are tested, the grades are slightly different. The state is 3 through 11, federal is 3 through 8 and 10. So there's a difference in the grades that are scores that are included in the systems. The student groups are different with the federal accountability, including special education students and limited English proficient students as student groups. The minimum size criteria differ slightly. How SDAA, RPTE, LDAA, how all those tests are used in the systems are different. There are exceptions that are allowances in the state system. There are no exceptions in the federal system. Attendance is used in the federal system, but not in the state system. So as you go through this chart, you'll see there's several differences. So there really is a reason that you can have federal and state accountability and have two different ratings. You go on to about the third page of that handout, you'll see a very detailed chart by the grade level and subject area that tells you exactly what subjects and grade levels are used in each of the different systems on the different tests. So when we're looking at AYP, a lot of people ask why. Because the name of the federal statute is No Child Shall Be Left Behind. And when No Child Left Behind came out, that caused a lot of fireworks to go off with districts. They didn't want 95% of all students having to be tested and to be held accountable for it. But I go back to the earlier slide. No one can argue with that. If you have an argument for that, come tell us. You won't convince us. Anita and I have worked in the school improvement program since this new grant for school improvement schools started several years ago. And one of the things that we've seen for a long time is that campuses need to be proactive instead of waiting for it to happen and then reacting to the situation. There's a lot of planning that needs to happen, and you need to be focused on improving the school in a positive manner and not playing the blame game. See, unfortunately, schools that are identified for school improvement for the first year one, stage one school improvement, I'm going to describe to you how we at TEA see these schools playing out. First year schools identified in school improvement, the majority of those schools spend at least 6 months in denial, arguing that we didn't really deserve that rating. And then they spend a couple of months pouring through the data, finding every loophole they can try to find to form an appeal to try to get off the list. They get their appeal denied because the honest numbers, only 7 schools won appeals to get out of school improvement last year. So after the appeal is denied, then they spend a couple of months thinking about whether they're going to hire someone to help them, whether the district's going to provide the technical assistance. whether they're really going to get down to business and work with our School Improvement Resource Center to improve the campus. And by the time they really come around to accepting the fact and deciding to do what's best for kids, you're at the end of the year. You have an allocation of school improvement money which has not been spent. Now see, that would never happen to the campuses that are here because you are positive enough in this possibility process that you're doing something about it. But there's another 200 plus campuses who are not here. So when I say don't play the blame game, I can't tell you the number of phone calls we receive at TEA where the campus has spent 2 months pouring through every bit of the data and they've identified that kid who caused this. Or they've determined that group of kids, if we didn't have those kids on our campus, we wouldn't be in school improvement. And I actually had a phone call from a community person last year where it had been said in public, if we didn't have those LEP kids on our campus, we would be fine. So what I want you to get out of this conference is that there are so many people available to help campuses and to help districts work through the school improvement process that it can be a very positive experience. We have campuses after a couple of years who go out of the school improvement process, they call us and they ask us, can we still contract with CERT to get the help that we've had over the last 2 years for the support? Can we still contract with that TAP out of our own budget so that we don't fall back into missing AYP? It can be a very positive process, and it all depends on one thing. You do what's right for kids. You don't play a game trying to find loopholes to get out of school improvement. If you go into it with the purpose of doing what's right for the students, you're going to come out in the end in good shape. How many of you have read the No Child Left Behind statute, all 1,134 pages? And I better at least see some ESC hands. No Child Left Behind is not the first federal education statute. Title I has been around for 41 years and 3 months. I know because I'm 12 days older than Title I is. Most people in schools didn't realize before No Child Left Behind that there was federal education statute. Title I and the other federal programs were segregated. That was a Title I teacher. Those were Title I kids. They were either in a different building or they had a little broom closet. What No Child Left Behind has done is it has brought education to the forefront. No Child Left Behind is for everyone. Before No Child Left Behind, when our division was asked to come out and do presentations, we talked to federal program directors, maybe a few principals from Title I school-wide campuses, and we talked to the ESC staff that we work with who disseminate the information down to schools. Since No Child Left Behind, I travel about as much as I'm in the office. I speak to all sorts of groups of teachers, district personnel, campus personnel, principals, school attorneys, HR directors, school board members. I don't think there's a group in your school district that I haven't spoken to somewhere across the state. It's because No Child Left Behind ties it all together, and No Child Left Behind touches everyone. No Child Left Behind is for all teachers. All my teachers, stand up. Please. It's early. You're falling asleep. What's the big requirement No Child Left Behind for you? Highly qualified teachers. And I'd bet money every one of you are. But you're also the most important person in the school. Now, I know the principals in a minute, when I make them stand, they're going to think they might be the most important. Or it might be the federal program director, I'm not sure. They control the money. You as the teachers are the most important person in that school because you touch the students, And the attitude that you go into the classroom with is the attitude the student comes out of the classroom with. And I'll let you sit down. So teachers, you're the most important people in the school. The attitude that you take into the classroom is the attitude the students take out, and it's the attitudes they take home to parents. Because the NCLB is also for parents. For the first time, parents have more information about what's going on in their child's school. The biggest problem we find with districts is they don't want to give all that information to parents. Well, why not? The more your parents are on your side, the easier it is in your classroom and in your campus. But see, we don't always treat parents the way we want to be treated. So No Child Left Behind is for parents. One of the big requirements of school improvement program is for parent notification. And I said earlier, if you go into school improvement, you're required to notify parents. And there are about 8 things in statute that are required to be in that letter. And I'm going to have some fun with you because this is not you. Y'all have never been in school improvement, so it's not possible that your campus submitted some of these examples. We get letters with a campus name from a neighboring district because they borrowed the letter and copied it and forgot to even white out and change the campus name. We get letters that are not even a letter. We get letters that are one paragraph typed in the middle of a school letterhead that don't say who they're to, they're not dated, they're not signed. We get letters saying if you want we get letters telling the parent they have the option of school choice, but there's no contact information for that parent to call anybody if they want to ask about school choice. We got one letter last year that was 2 sentences. Well, it's actually 2 sentences in one fragment. So they thought it was 3 sentences. We get letters with misspelled words. We get letters that say everything in the world except the 8 things that are required to be notified of parents. And we can laugh about this because y'all would never do that. You would never send out a letter that had a campus name from a district down the road. The notifications to parents, the information that's required to be shared with parents is so important. One of the big topics that the U.S. Department of Education is on right now is school choice. Every campus that goes into school improvement must offer school choice. Now, some districts don't have anybody else to offer. If you only have one elementary school in your district and it goes into school improvement, you don't have another option. Statute says you must, to the extent possible, try to work a cooperative agreement with a neighboring district. But statute does not tell a neighboring district they have to accept your transfers. So for some schools, school choice is not an option. But for those where it is, it must be offered. And U.S. Department of Education is very high on school choice. So much to the extent that they don't like the low number of parents who are choosing to move their children. Because see, basically, especially in our state, and what I'm hearing from state directors across the country, most states, the parents are not choosing to move their children to another school at a very high rate. And we're constantly having to explain to the U.S. Department of Education why not. Anita was in a meeting in D.C. last week. We were up there for 2 different meetings for a week. And she had the opportunity to talk with the people. And they're really looking at numbers. Why do only 1% of the students who are eligible in Texas do their parents actually choose to move them to another campus? Well, you know, there's a lot of reasons. A lot of parents pick the neighborhood they live in to go to a certain school. Or they send their children to that school because grandma lives close enough and that's their after-school care. Or that's the group of people where all their friends are. That's their community. That's their community school. But you know, there's a bigger argument for this in that when parents are notified of everything they're supposed to be notified of, they're going to not only know, yes, you're in school improvement, yes, they have the option to transfer to another campus, but they're also going to know everything you're going to be doing on that campus to improve it. They're going to know all the ways that they as a parent can become involved in the education of their child on your campus. And once a parent knows everything you're going to do, all the professional development you're going to provide to teachers, all the programs you're going to implement to help their students, all the different things they can become involved in, why would they want to send their student to another school that's not offering that? So parent notification can actually work to your benefit, because most campuses don't want their students transferring to another school. We hear that all the time. So parent notification and informing parents of all their responsibilities and everything that statute requires them to be informed of, not only related to school improvement, but also related to No Child Left Behind across the board, helps you keep your students on your campus. Now, No Child Left Behind is also designed for all students. AYP has a 95% participation in state assessment requirement. And you know, it's one of the things that people complained about the most when No Child Left Behind and the very strict definition of AYP came out. Look at the state report, the state AYP report on the website sometime. 95% participation is not what causes people to miss AYP. It did the first year. Second year, it's not the problem. So all the students need to be tested, all of them need to be tested appropriately. We hear a lot of people calling, telling us, we're just going to move our special ed kids back into mainstream so they're tested on TAC so their score counts, because we can't meet this 3% limitation. Is that's what best for the student? If you enter the school improvement process, and ESC people, as they work with campuses who are in school improvement, and the School Improvement Resource Center staff, I know all these people. If a campus focuses on what's right for students instead of what makes some adults happy, you can't go wrong, because No Child Left Behind is written for all students. Now, one of the requirements of school improvement is to revise a campus improvement plan, and that's kind of what these next 2 days are going to really talk about. And they're taking some of the requirements and they're spending some detailed time with you on them. In your handout, one of the last pages of my section looks like this, and it talks about the different requirements for revising campus improvement plans. Under the school improvement program, a campus must revise their campus improvement plan within 3 months of being identified for school improvement. The plan has to be written to cover a 2-year period. Now, I know that's a little different. Most campuses like to revise that plan and update it annually. Because school improvement is a minimum 2-year process, federal statute requires the campus improvement plan be revised and cover the next 2 years. You're required to receive technical assistance from your district. The district has a wide variety of choice as to who can provide that technical assistance and how it can be done. That's described on the back of that sheet. But the district also must provide a peer review and approval process of your plan within 45 days of when the campus completes the plan. Now you're thinking, this is no big deal. We revise our campus plan every year. Look on the front side of that sheet. There's 10 requirements of what must be included in that plan revision. The first requirement is checking to make sure that all your activities you're incorporating in that plan are scientifically based on research. That you're addressing the specific academic issues that caused you not to meet AYP. Another one of the funny things we see in the agency. People are identified in school improvement, so they get an extra little allocation of money. So they send the application in, and everything they're targeting in their application, how they're going to fix that campus, is in writing. Well, first off, writing is not used in AYP, so writing is not what caused the campus to miss AYP and go into school improvement process. Math is what their problem was, but nothing is going to address math. It's all about writing. You have to address the specific content area which caused the AYP issues. Your plan also has to talk about adopting policies and practices to help the school meet the requirement of all students meeting proficiency. You have to talk about the 10% reservation for professional development and the types of professional development. And this has to be high quality professional development. And if you ever wanted to see a definition, high quality professional development under No Child Left Behind is defined by 24 traits. So we're not just talking NEO staff development, it has to be high quality professional development. You have to establish measurable goals and objectives for helping the students meet the academic proficiency. You have to describe how you're going to provide this written notification to parents. Talk about the responsibilities of the school and the district to provide technical assistance. Strategies to promote effective parent involvement. That's your key to the whole school improvement process. And the list goes on until it gets down to the bottom where it talks about incorporating a teacher mentor program. That is the requirement that seems to be overlooked the most in campus improvement plans. We only do teacher mentor programs for the new guy who's never taught before. But you know what? Research doesn't say it's the first year teacher who needs induction and support and mentoring. At a minimum, most research says it's the first 3 years, and some of it even says it's the first 5 years. And if you read the Cory Green book on research, it's that teacher who is burned out just trying to finish 3 more years so they can retire. Statute doesn't say a teacher mentor program for only first-year new teachers. That's a requirement that's often overlooked. Now, in those requirements, the district is required to provide technical assistance to the school improvement campus. But there's a lot of other technical assistance that's available to campuses who enter the school improvement, the school improvement process. Every education service center has someone who's identified as a Title I contact person. And most of them also have specific school improvement contact people. There's another level of technical assistance. The state is required by statute to provide technical assistance to campuses who are identified in corrective action, school improvement, and then others not meeting AYP, and it's in that particular order. We do that at the state level through the School Improvement Resource Center, which is a program that we've developed in collaboration with Region 13, and we have a staff of, I don't know how many, not enough. If you go into school improvement process, and I know most of you are not going to because you're really proactive, and I'm speaking to the choir of the possibility schools by just the fact you're here. Most people think meeting CIRC and meeting Anita is a bad thing, but it's not. They have a network of very caring individuals who have either studied the process of school improvement or in most cases, they have done it. And they have brought schools with difficulties to exemplary. So you've got a lot of technical assistance available through the CIRC staff. The higher level of technical assistance, and this really usually deals with your money issues on school improvement, and when we get complaints from the community or we get complaints from SES providers, the people you get to meet and deal with then are usually my staff. And this is where I keep saying Anita is really a nice person. Anita's the one who gets to deal with the issues for me. If there's an issue in school improvement and we have to call a district and say we've got a complaint, and we need to see the documentation where you're doing everything you're supposed to, Anita's the one who gets to make the phone call. And school improvement from the agency, we're dealing with your school improvement program allocation and the additional requirements for campuses that go into stage 2 that have to deal and offer supplemental educational services, and the complaints, and yes, there are complaints about school improvement. But what I want to talk to you about for the next 10 minutes that I have left, they're flashing signs at me, is the information we learned in Washington, D.C. last week. School improvement, school choice, supplemental educational services, all the different facets of the school improvement process are now very high on the radar for the U.S. Department of Education. It is going to be the main topic of interest when they monitor states under Title I, and it is going to be a process that is slightly different than what they've used before when they're looking at monitoring. Everything that has to be done in school improvement process has to be documented. Everything we do from the state has to be documented. If you flipped through this notebook last night and got all excited about seeing Anita's presentation later, you're probably wondering how in the world she's going to cover all that information in the short amount of time that she's given. Well, she's not going to cover all of it. I'll break it to you gently now. She's going to cover the high points of what you need. But we're giving you all the information, assuming that you're really good staff members and you're going to go back and read it. Because there is a letter from the Secretary of Education that came out maybe 6 weeks ago, May 15th, and it is very strong in how it talks about school improvement, school choice, and supplemental educational services. Now, you don't have to worry about SES, supplemental educational services, till you enter stage 2, but it is one of the most high-profile, most political requirements under No Child Left Behind. In the monitoring of Title I, it states, of which we're probably going to get monitored again in the next school year. If we don't get hit in 06-07, we will be guaranteed in 07-08, because they were on a 3-year monitoring schedule. They were going to monitor every state every 3 years from the federal level. They have now reduced that to every state every 2 years. So they will be monitoring state Title I and school improvement every other year. So they're collapsing the 3-year schedule down to a 2-year schedule. And we were in January is when we had our visit, so that means we are literally right on the line. And last week, they wouldn't tell us whether we fell into the 06-07 group or the first one of the 07-08 group. So anywhere within the next year, we're going to be monitored again. One of the things they're strongly looking at in the school improvement program is parent notification, and especially the offering of school choice. And they want to see that everything that is supposed to be notified to the parent was included in the notification. They want to see that the parent notification information is in a language the parent can understand. So yes, just about everything in school improvement also has to be translated into Spanish. How many of you looked at our school improvement website? A couple of you. You'll notice most of our information in school improvement is available in Spanish. We do parent notification letters. We give you a sample letter, and it's also provided in Spanish. And while I'm on the parent notification letter for the 3rd time, if I say it often enough, you'll get it. We give you a sample letter. Our sample letter has all the requirements included. It's got brackets and says insert name of contact person here. So you just have to fill in the blanks. But don't do what another campus did last year. They sent our letter out, but they didn't personalize it. You know, instead of saying, dear parent of student at insert campus here, and they're supposed to say whatever name of the campus, it said insert campus here. You have to fill in the blanks, but it's very easy. But if you use our letter and you fill in all the blanks where we tell you to insert information, you will be notifying parents of everything you're required to notify them of. It's also available in Spanish. One of the newest things we've heard is that if you're unable to send the letter in a language the parent can understand, the information must verbally be given to the parent in a language they can understand. Well, you know, that's going to be a little difficult, because if I can't find somebody to translate this letter into Urdu, where am I going to find somebody who to translate it and speak it in Urdu? This is something that's come out in a brand new guidance document that was released last Friday from the U.S. Department of Education. Typically, we would say that's guidance. It's not regulatory. But in statute, we have to do everything there is. That's required. The way the Department of Education is kind of running right now, if they send something out in guidance or if they send something out in letter, it is treated the same as statute. School choice, especially, is a very high topic. It's a hot topic with the U.S. Department of Education. You will see it gain even more importance from our division at TEA in the coming year. Go back to what I said earlier. If you're notifying parents of everything that you're supposed to, and they're seeing all the wonderful things you're going to do on that campus, why would they want to transfer their students somewhere else? But it's most important that parents get the information that they're entitled to. When the parents get that information, they're most likely going to need to discuss the information with someone. One of the most important things that goes out in that parent notification letter is who the contact person is if they have questions. Usually it's going to be someone at campus level administration, or it's going to be someone maybe at district office. But take a second and think, who are most parents most comfortable talking to on that campus? The teachers. That's who they know. That's who they're comfortable with. They have conferences with them. They come up and see the teachers. They see them every afternoon when they're picking Johnny up from school. It's real important that everybody on a campus understands school improvement process, knows what's going on, why it's going on, and that they can talk to parents and explain what that letter means and explain what the process means. I still say teachers are the most important people on the campus, but the parent is the most important person in the child's life. You've got to get those two working together to help the student. That's the whole point of No Child Left Behind. That's the point of school improvement program. If you go into the No Child Left Behind statute, in statute it actually calls these schools identified needing improvement. It doesn't say low performing. It doesn't say bad. It doesn't say poor. It doesn't say high minority. It doesn't say high ELL population. It says some area in the campus needs some help. School improvement doesn't have to be this big black dot everybody considers it to be. Yes, I understand it's not the most pleasant process sometimes. But if you end up going through the school improvement process, it will be as positive or as negative as the campus makes it. And so I challenge you to make it positive and do what's best for the students.